In the dim cabin of a transatlantic flight bound for New York, the hum of engines masked the growing unease among passengers. High above the Atlantic, the aircraft shuddered unexpectedly, a violent jolt ripping through the fuselage as alarms blared in the cockpit. The captain, a seasoned veteran with decades in the skies, gripped the controls, his face paling as systems failed one by one. Turbulence wasn't the issue. Something far worse had struck, an engine malfunction compounded by a sudden loss of hydraulics, turning the massive jet into an unpredictable beast hurtling through the storm-riddled night. Passengers clutched armrests, whispers turning to gasps as oxygen masks dangled like omens. The flight attendants moved with forced calm, but fear etched their features. Then, over the intercom, the captain's voice crackled, strained and urgent, broadcasting a plea that silenced the cabin, a desperate call for anyone with fighter pilot experience. Eyes darted around, searching for a savior in the sea of ordinary faces. Amid the chaos, one woman remained undisturbed, her head resting against the window, eyes closed in peaceful slumber. She was a black woman in her mid-40s, dressed in simple travel clothes, her presence unassuming among the business suits and vacationers. Little did anyone know, her past held the key to their survival, a history forged in the fires of adversity and hidden strength. As the plane dipped alarmingly, the question hung in the air. Would she awaken in time, or would prejudice blind them to the hero in their midst? The tension mounted with each passing second, the aircraft groaning under the strain, pulling viewers deeper into the unfolding drama. What secrets did this sleeping passenger harbor, and how had a lifetime of overlooked battles prepared her for this moment? Elara Thompson had always been drawn to the skies, even as a child growing up in a modest neighborhood in Atlanta, where the roar of passing jets symbolized escape from the confines of her world. Born in the late 1970s to parents who worked tirelessly in low-wage jobs, she witnessed the subtle and overt ways society diminished people like her, black, female, and ambitious. School counselors steered her toward practical careers, dismissing her dreams of aviation as fanciful. Yet, Elara's resolve hardened like steel. She spent nights poring over library books on flight mechanics, her imagination soaring where opportunities faltered. By her teens, the barriers became glaring. At a local air show, she approached a booth for aspiring pilots, only to be met with skeptical glances and questions about her fit for such a demanding field. "It's a man's world up there," one recruiter muttered, his words echoing the racism and sexism that permeated the industry. Undeterred, Elara volunteered at a small airport, sweeping hangars and absorbing knowledge from mechanics who, at first, viewed her as an anomaly. Her breakthrough came through a scholarship program for underrepresented minorities, but even there she faced isolation, classmates whispering about affirmative action, instructors grading her harsher to prove her merit. College brought military recruitment, and Elara enlisted in the Air Force, drawn to the structure that promised equality but often delivered disparity. Training as a fighter pilot, she endured grueling simulations and physical tests, her body pushed to limits while her spirit battled condescension. Peers questioned her stamina. Superiors overlooked her achievements, attributing successes to diversity quotas rather than skill. One incident stood out. During a routine exercise, her input on a tactical maneuver was ignored, leading to a near miss that could have been avoided. Later, in private, a colleague admitted the dismissal stemmed from bias. "We didn't think you'd have the instincts." These slights accumulated, forging a quiet determination in Elara, teaching her to excel in silence. After years of service, including deployments where she navigated hostile skies with precision, Elara retired honorably, her record impeccable yet her promotion slower than her white male counterparts. Now a civilian consultant for aerospace firms, she traveled frequently, blending into crowds as just another passenger. On this fateful flight, she boarded exhausted from a conference in London, where she'd spoken on diversity in aviation, only to face audience members doubting her expertise based on appearance alone. Settling into her economy seat, she popped a mild sedative to combat jet lag, drifting into sleep as the plane taxied. Unbeknownst to her, the aircraft's maintenance logs hid a flaw, an overlooked sensor that would soon trigger catastrophe. As the flight progressed smoothly at first, Elara's dreams revisited her past struggles, a subconscious rehearsal for the injustice about to unfold in the waking world. The cabin lights dimmed. Passengers relaxed, but beneath the surface, fate brewed a storm that would test not just machinery, but human prejudices. As the plane climbed to cruising altitude, subtle vibrations went unnoticed at first, dismissed as typical air pockets. In the cockpit, however, warning lights flickered, a hydraulic leak seeping insidious doubt into the controls. The co-pilot ran diagnostics, sweat beading on his brow, while the captain radioed air traffic control for guidance. Miles from the nearest airport, diversion wasn't immediate. They needed to stabilize. Passengers sensed the shift, seats creaking as bodies tensed, but the crew maintained composure, attributing bumps to weather. Elara stirred briefly in her slumber, a fleeting awareness of unease, but fatigue pulled her back under. Around her, stereotypes simmered unspoken. A businessman eyed her with mild curiosity, wondering about her story, while a flight attendant passed without offering extra amenities, her service subtly curt compared to others. These microaggressions mirrored Elara's life, constant underestimation based on skin color and gender. The crisis escalated when the left engine sputtered, a burst of flame visible from windows eliciting screams. The plane banked sharply, altitude dropping as power fluctuated. Oxygen masks deployed and panic rippled through rows. The captain, voice steady but laced with fear, announced the need for calm, then issued his unprecedented call for a fighter pilot. Whispers turned to frantic discussions. Who could that be? Eyes scanned, landing on military types, but none stepped forward. A young veteran hesitated, admitting his experience was ground-based. In the midst of this, Elara awoke groggily, mask dangling before her, the cabin's chaos piercing her haze. She assessed quickly, years of training kicking in, the pitch of the engines, the unnatural tilt. Passengers nearby glanced at her dismissively, one muttering about staying put. A flight attendant approached, urging her to secure her mask, but with a hint of impatience, as if Elara's calm composure was out of place. As minutes ticked by, the plane's descent accelerated, systems failing in cascade. The captain repeated his plea, desperation mounting. Elara rose, navigating the aisle amid turbulence, her movements deliberate. Reaching the front, she identified herself to a skeptical attendant, who paused, eyes narrowing in doubt. "You, a fighter pilot?" The unspoken bias hung heavy. How could this black woman, unassuming and travel-weary, possess such elite skills? The attendant relayed the message hesitantly, and the captain, through the door, demanded credentials. Elara recited her service number, deployments. Aircraft types flown, F-16s in combat zones, but doubt lingered. Back in her past, similar moments flashed. Being passed over for missions, her reports questioned more rigorously. Now, amplified by crisis, the injustice peaked. The co-pilot argued against involving her, citing protocol, but the captain, options dwindling, allowed entry. Inside the cockpit, instruments screamed warnings, the ocean below a looming threat. Elara scanned the panels, her mind racing through scenarios honed in simulators and real skirmishes. Yet, even here, subtle resistance emerged. The co-pilot's glances, the captain's initial directives ignoring her input. Tension built as the plane plummeted, wind howling against the hull. Elara proposed a maneuver, rerouting auxiliary power, manual override on flaps, drawing from fighter jet tactics adapted to commercial aviation. Hesitation cost precious seconds. The co-pilot challenged her, his tone edged with bias, questioning her experience in real emergencies. Elara persisted, her voice firm, drawing on reservoirs of patience forged through years. The cockpit became a pressure cooker as the plane hurtled toward critical failure, altitude bleeding away at an alarming rate. Elara, now at the controls alongside the captain, executed her plan amidst skepticism. She isolated the faulty hydraulic line, diverting power from non-essentials, her fingers dancing over switches with the muscle memory of countless dogfights. The co-pilot monitored, his reluctance evident, but the captain nodded approval, the urgency overriding doubt. Outside, storm clouds enveloped the jet, lightning illuminating the strained faces in the cabin. A sudden downdraft slammed them downward, G-forces pinning bodies to seats. Elara countered with a sharp bank, mimicking evasive maneuvers from her military days, stabilizing the descent. Alarms wailed as fuel imbalances threatened, but she recalibrated, her mind a whirlwind of calculations. Wind speed, weight distribution, remaining thrust. The peak intensity hit when the second engine faltered, smoke trailing behind. Panic surged in the cockpit. The captain's hands trembled. The co-pilot froze. Elara took decisive command, throttling back to prevent fire spread, then initiating a glide path toward Philadelphia, the nearest viable runway. Her body ached from the strain, but adrenaline fueled her, memories of racial slurs and training halls pushing her forward. The plane groaned, metal stressing to limits. As they broke through clouds, the ground rushing up. In those final moments, the injustice crystallized. Had she been a white man, her expertise would have been embraced instantly. Instead, precious time lost to bias nearly sealed their fate. With runway lights in sight, Elara flared the nose, wheels screeching on tarmac in a rough but survivable landing. Sparks flew, emergency vehicles swarming as the aircraft skidded to a halt. Silence fell, broken by relieved sobs from the cabin. As emergency crews evacuated the plane, passengers emerged shaken but alive, the night air cool against their flushed skin. Elara stepped out last, her composure unbroken, though exhaustion etched her features. Paramedics checked her, but she waved them off, focusing on the crew's debrief. Word spread quickly. The sleeping black woman was the hero, a former fighter pilot whose skills saved 200 lives. In the terminal, reactions varied. Gratitude from many, but lingering doubt from a few. Whispers of lucky break dismissing her role. Media swarmed, turning the incident into a national story. Elara's background emerged, her trailblazing career, the racism she endured, from denied opportunities to outright discrimination. Interviews revealed how she mentored young black women in aviation, fighting for equity in a field where diversity remained scarce. The airline investigated, uncovering not just mechanical failure but systemic oversights, including biased training protocols that mirrored Elara's experiences. Changes followed, diversity audits, sensitivity programs, inspired by her quiet advocacy. Personally, Elara reflected on the flight as a microcosm of her life, overlooked until crisis forced recognition. She returned to work, invigorated, her story inspiring scholarships and documentaries. Yet the deeper impact lingered in societal ripples. Viewers of the news pondered how prejudices endanger us all, how hidden talents in marginalized communities go untapped. Elara's journey underscored resilience, proving that true heroism often emerges from those society deems least likely. In a world quick to judge by appearances, what untapped potential lies dormant among us, waiting for the moment to soar? Reflect on this. The next time you dismiss someone, consider, they might just be the one to save the day.